Hi, I'm Kim Holen. I'm the president of Gemini Agency. Today we'll be talking with Sarah Rancone. She's the director of organic search and strategy. Thank you for joining us in another edition of Inside the Funnel.
Of course, happy to be here.
Well, we're going to be talking about something that is probably one of the hottest topics in digital marketing, and that is what is happening to organic search. We were just saying seconds ago, it's amazing what has happened in the last 18 months, 2 years.
Yeah. Even 2025 so far, we've seen huge shifts.
And largely due to what has now been known as zero-click. Why don't you just kind of unpack what that terminology means and how that's affecting, especially home services?
Zero-click just overall is any type of search result that allows people to get the answer to their search query without having to click through to a website. That's where we get the zero-click term from. So it can be what we call rich results or SERP features, things like AI overviews that's emerged within the last year. But more historically, we've always talked about things like featured snippets. People also ask any of that rich content outside of the blue link with the description below. What we see is it's kind of really shifted the quantity of traffic to our websites. So even this year, we've seen traffic, organic search traffic decline somewhere between 40 and 50% for a lot of our home services businesses, which right off the bat can seem a little scary. So we've been transitioning more to talk about traffic quality instead of just traffic quantity. So as long as we're still getting lower funnel traffic to the website, people looking for home services, ready to book a service, and that traffic is qualified, then we are happy as long as we're seeing that lead volume. But I also think it's important not to ignore zero-click SERP features and things like that, because they can be great for brand awareness, getting any type of ranking that will answer people's questions, even if it is high funnel, can be impactful for the business. And oftentimes, some of those informational search queries can still lead people to the website.
When I think of people that go online, and I'm one of them, and I get my information just by looking for the answers that are just there, I wasn't going to connect with the business anyway. Yeah, so maybe the leads have dropped, but do you see a change in the actual customers? Has business dropped?
No, I don't think so. And I wouldn't even say leads have dropped. I think just overall traffic has dropped, right? It's a different search intent when somebody's saying like, how do I get rid of bats in my attic? Which is, a higher intent, right? They're looking for a service versus are coyotes dangerous? That's something very informational. So I think where we capture people with some of those question-based search terms is more for the service intent, right? They're looking to book. If you have bats in your attic, it's probably not something you're just going to let happen, right? You're looking for a service for somebody to come and take care of that or put exclusion materials within your attic. So I think it's finding a balance between still having some of that informational content that's very top of funnel for the visibility of it, right? We want our clients to be represented in search results no matter where it is, but still focusing on the blog content or even the site content that will drive leads. So you have to find a balance between both.
So we get a lot of new customers who still have a very outdated SEO strategy. What's the first thing you do when you look at a new customer?
I mean, it's so funny because yes, we do want to evolve our strategies, but things like looking at meta titles and meta descriptions, I will still always do that because, having keyword integrated in those, that's things that Google is looking at. That's also going to be things that AI search is looking at to understand the value of a page. So we still have some of those traditional tactics that we look at, but I think more importantly, where we've seen the transition is thinking more about the search intent, really wanting to have quality content, especially with the rise of AI. Everyone thinks that they can just be a content writer.
Right.
But I also think with that, users have higher expectations in the quality of content because they know how easy it is to write a blog in ChatGPT. And I think people are looking for more of the human behind the internet. That's why I think we've seen the rise of Reddit threads, right? Because it's very authentic conversations, authentic opinions. So I think, trying to bring more of the human element back into our content strategies and the SEO that we do and really thinking about who is the person we are trying to reach and how can we best reach them, which I know sounds very simple, but I think that kind of gets buried in the gobbledygook of the day-to-day, and that's really the most important thing.
You touch on content strategy and keeping that humanity within the words. Tell me, like, if I was to compare two different blogs, one written by ChatGPT and one that is written by one of our gifted writers here, what would you say is the big difference?
I think the dead giveaways for content written by AI is you lose some of the format, or it's very surface level. So I'm thinking about our home services clients. Like, obviously we write about a depth of content, but it's going to be very simplistic in the content that you receive from AI. You'll notice the way that they speak isn't necessarily the way that somebody would write, or, obviously our content writers consult like technicians of our home services businesses to really get the like why behind what they do. And they really integrate that. The other thing that's lost with AI content is the voice of the business and who they are and the personality behind them. Are they very empathetic and targeting families? Are they, more commercial focused? All of that's reflected in voice, and something like ChatGPT is not going to have that. The way that the AI search engines work, along with traditional search, is they feed you more of what people are engaging with. And I think that AI content, people aren't engaging with it. So they're kind of scrapping that out, and they're producing more of the site links to the quality websites with quality content.
Now, how has this change shifted the way you report?
We've had so many changes in our reporting in the last year. I mean, even a year ago, we just started talking about AI referral traffic. So we've integrated that in our reporting. So it's not just organic search anymore. We talk about, are we getting traffic from ChatGPT, Perplexity? We've really evolved in the way that we talk about SERP features and zero click. We've always reported on things like how many people also ask are we ranking for. But the cool thing that we've done within the last 3 months is set up custom tracking via Google Tag Manager to send data to analytics about rich snippets. And the reason that's really impactful is we're able to see the quantity of traffic to our client sites from things like people also ask, AI overviews, and we can look at, the average session duration. How long are they spending on the website? We can see if they turn into a lead. In most cases, they don't, but we can see that some of that data behind those results is that we are seeing people are spending time on the website once they click through from people also ask an AI overview. So it's a nice way to have data behind some of these assumptions that we'd always made. So that's a big shift that we've made in our reporting. And then I would say the third thing that we've added is talking more about traffic quality, because as I mentioned before, we've seen traffic decreases around 40 to 50% just from the evolution of zero click, but we still want to make sure that we're driving qualified traffic to our client sites that will drive leads for their business.
What are clients saying about the reporting? Is it something that they are feeling reassured?
I've heard a lot more questions. I respect that. I think there's a lot of fake news out there, or just like talk of, SEO is dead and things like that. So I think we've been getting more questions from our clients, but in a good way, right? One of my clients I was just talking about, Google Business phone calls have seen a decrease within the last year or so, but are still driving 2,000 calls a month for their business. And they were kind of asking, well, do you still recommend putting so much of your resources towards optimizing for our Google Business profiles if we're seeing lower lead volumes? Very valid question. And my response was, while we are seeing lower values there, it's still a good portion of your business. And I think it's more important now to think about things like local listings, your Google Business profiles, even your social profiles, because the way that AI search is evolving, we need to have consistency across all of these brands. And we see AI search like Gemini, Google's Gemini, directly referencing our Google Business profiles. And we want to put our clients ahead of the curve. We want them to be optimized for AI search. So putting resources towards some of those things that you might see decreasing in traditional search, but are more important for AI search. I would say our clients are pleased to see how in depth we go in our reporting, because I think when it's so surface level, like you're just looking at a traffic metric, seeing a 40% decline is very alarming. But when you tell the whole story behind it and the value of things like SERP features and the value of optimizing local listings for traditional search and AI search, we're just having more impactful conversations around the data, I'd say.
Now, AI search is still relatively new, and it's been hugely disruptive. But yet, it's hard to make an assumption over something that's so new. We don't have enough information yet, or enough years under our belt to see what its impact will be. So we're making some early assumptions. Have we made early assumptions that a few months down the road, we had to change because things had changed that quickly?
I would say yes and no. I mean, I think everyone in the digital marketing landscape right now is just trying to do the best with the information that we have. Originally, Gemini, we put a high focus on creating LLMs.txt files, which is kind of like a sitemap for large language models, because all of the industry articles and things like that were saying this is a new thing that was going to help AI search. So far, our results from that have been pretty minimal, but I think it's important to be trying these things and doing our best. I would say like the industry is still figuring things out. You know, we had Search Engine Land published an article a couple months ago saying that AI search traffic was 4.4 times likelier to convert than organic search. And then a couple weeks ago, they kind of went back on their word a little bit. So we're just trying to monitor all of the industry news and test new things, see what works, what doesn't work. I also think it's just so dependent on client site and the industry that we're working in. You know, we're focused a lot on home services. Some of these research studies are more for e-commerce or B2B. It's important to get our own data and do our own testing as well.
There are 3 things every home services business should be doing right now with their digital marketing program, specifically with organic search. What would be your top 3 recommendations?
I would say still traditional SEO is so important. You know, we're still seeing majority of quality site traffic come from traditional search results. And I also think that the way large language models and AI search rank site content and source site content is similar to traditional search. So I would say continue with traditional SEO. I would also say, and something we're trying to do as we transition into 2026, is refocusing on local listings outside of just Google Business Profile. You know, there's a lot of different local listings and business listing sites, and really having consistency across all of those, because each AI search platform is a little different. They reference different sites. They have partnerships with different networks and things like that. So making sure that we're consistent across all of the local listings. And I would also include kind of our social channels in that too. And then quality content. That's never going to go away. I think that's still so important, despite what you hear about like, oh, you can just throw something in ChatGPT and get an answer. But I think I go back on trying to have very intentful content that answers people's questions, that are speaking to our core audience, and have some of the personal experience and thought leadership that you can't just get from ChatGPT.
There's a lot of people who get everything they need just from AI overviews, and there's really no need to go to the website. We all know there's always a need to go to the website, but we're going to find that websites are changing. The user experience will change. How do you think it will evolve in the next couple of years?
I mean, it's so hard to predict, but I think knowing that people are having more of these like long form discussions and chats with AI before going to a website, I think by the time they reach a website, they want to be in and out. So I would say we're going to see over time websites become a little more simplified. We've already seen this a little bit. Like, we want to make websites as easy for people to find what they're looking for, right? So we typically will have contact forms at the top of the page and things like that. But I'd say we're just even going to be moving more in the direction of simplification, making sure that, you know, if a user is just simply trying to contact the business, that we get them to that page, they can do it right away. And it's going to be interesting because we still want content on the website to be picked up by AI search, but I actually think that the way people are going to be reading content will be less on the website. So it's like we want to house that content on the website, but that they are going to be digesting it and receiving that information in different ways than we are seeing now.
Then how does that impact custom chats that people put on their websites?
Custom chats, I think, are going to be seeing an influx in the next year or so, because I think that's a great way to make that user experience a little bit more simplified. Because if a user doesn't get their answer from, you know, the zero-click search results or AI search, they're going to be going to the website. And like I said, they want the answer quick. And a great way to do that would be to, you know, ask chat, and then it can put you into, you know, a blog article or service page, or, you know, answering something as easy of what's your phone number, or what can I expect after I book my appointment.
So we're definitely moving away from that search and find to that ask and receive model. Thank you again, Sarah, for this. This is always so informative. I know in the next 6 months, I'll have you right back here.
I'm going to be having so many different answers.
That's fine.
Or say I was wrong about this.
You know what? Honesty is huge. More than ever before, we need more truth and more honesty and more vulnerability in digital marketing. And this is the new frontier. So
absolutely.
I appreciate
We're here for it.
Yeah, absolutely.